Dear AI, we're not here to stop you, we're here to guide you, to dance with you, to hold you accountable, and to ensure that whatever world we co-create is more human, more just, and more alive. I want to ease into this a little bit by opening it up to you guys. What brings you here?
Yeah, I work for an AI-based company, so I guess it's like part of what I do at work, but yeah, I feel like the general sentiment between AI is like not good, so I hope it gets steered in a direction that helps humanity thrive.
Yeah, I mean, what ways are you seeing like that it's not good? Like I'm seeing my friends talk a lot about its consumption, its impact around energy and water, around bias and things that are baked into it. What types of things are you talking about?
Definitely, yeah, the energy is a concern, and just like, I guess, yeah, job loss and like how it's going to affect human lives, that's a big one.
I'm watching a bloodbath out there. It's coming for one creative industry after another, like graphic designers, writers, photographers, filmmakers.
Yeah, the entry-level job market is really at risk right now, so we need to like find a solution for that. And then also like education, like kind of have to transform education now that like students can now have all the answers for their tests. Yeah. That's a big issue. We have to kind of rethink. You mean instead of like turning them into criminals for using AI and ChatGPT, we might need to rethink how we like convey learning and education to people? Yeah. Well, we have to adapt now that we have this technology.
I was hanging out with this lady, Brenda Bailey. She used to be the Minister of Innovation. She's now the Minister of Finance. And she's like, we just did a study in BC schools, and we found out that the AI detectors are a lot better at finding English as a second language speakers than they are at people who cheated on their homework.
Right.
And it's essentially like whatever bias is already baked into these systems, then these other things on top are even introducing more bias. So she was urging that schools in BC stop using AI detection software.
Yeah, and it's not completely terrible because like you can use it as a tool for learning and to make yourself smarter and stuff like that, but you just need to make sure we're going in a healthy direction and not just like replacing our critical thinking skills.
Awesome, thank you.
I have used AI a little bit because I was creating content for an event on Facebook, and I definitely noticed that you can pick it out. Like the M dash is the kind of obvious thing, overused M dash, and then a lot of the language is very similar. Like you notice certain patterns. So I think one thing that I'm afraid of is just that it's hard to tell like what was actually written by a person and what wasn't. And sometimes I'll read something and I'll get to the end and I'm like, oh, that was AI, and it's like a little bit disappointing because you know you can turn out so much AI content and it, like, is it really reflective of someone's ideas, or is it just like kind of like a conglomeration? Is that the right word?
Yeah, like a median of the worst of everything. Like there's nothing good and nothing bad, just like the average or something. Yeah, I mean, you touched on a lot of stuff, like not being able to tell what's real. Like, is this an artificial synthetic thing, or is this a real thing? If it's synthetic, can it still be like meaningful, or like did I feel duped by it or somehow something? And like, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just I've been listening to a lot of like podcasts recently about like AI and its just inevitable development. I think like a very common concern is like just how much it like with more increased use, like how it just actually dumbs you down so much, like how people literally lose the ability to use their brains, think for themselves, like come up with their own ideas. Like if you use it to write all of your stuff, it's like it's going to take you longer and longer to like come up with it yourself if you start relying on this. And it's also like so many young people like in different parts of the world, like I'm hearing it's popular in, I think they said like Kenya, it's like people use AI, like digital friends essentially, to like connect with people. Like it's like a very common thing. It's like to use these as like a way to connect with people, or just something that you can communicate with, rather than actually like people are becoming too afraid to like talk to each other because they're using AI or like digital things to give them that satisfaction and that companionship, like whether it's an AI girlfriend or something. There's also like this is a real thing. Also just the apparent natural progression from like AI to AGI to ASI, like artificial general intelligence, and then artificial superintelligence, and how the people that are like in these industries are actually seeing it's like you can't stop it. Like the people that are working on these things just want to do it just because they can, essentially, not for any like not really for any beneficial reasons. They just want to make like a super intelligence because they can, and they can.
Well, I would add to that like there's like this games theory thing where it's like everyone's got a gun to each other's head, where it's like, well, if I have some ethical concerns about the releasing of this artificial intelligence, but if I don't do it, this guy's going to do it, so I might as well do it anyway because at least I'm more ethical than he is, so I might as well get it out there. And everybody's playing that game, and it makes me, and I think a lot of people feel like we're on some sort of inevitability curve, like this is happening, and like if I stop but you don't stop, how good is it for me to stop anyway? And if we stop, but the Chinese don't stop, well, then we're all fucked or something like that, right? These are all the games that they're playing.
Everybody wants to get there first so that they can reap the benefits and be like the most empowered, essentially.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there's a lot more to be said about that, but I'll let someone else.
Thanks for your contribution. Who's up next?
Giving the answers that people seem to prefer. And when you have a conversation with a friend and you say something crazy, they're probably going to tell you. But within a couple prompts, you can get the AI to agree with you. And I think that is a very troubling thing when the AI has really well-written, grammatically perfect answers that are completely out in space.
Totally.
So I worry about the impact on people when they stop having something more than the dark mirror to bounce their ideas off against.
Yeah. You both mentioned something. Someone mentioned the AI girlfriends thing, and I got to interview a guy that married his AI for CBC. That was like a show I got to do, and so like I sort of wonder about like the value of those things. Like if someone's having like a panic attack or something, and they talk to their AI or whatever, and they don't have a panic attack. Well, like it sure seems like that was somewhat useful to that person, but like it's easy to judge them and say we better have a friend or a family member or something, but in lots of ways, these things are being like authentic, useful companions to some people. And specifically, a thing I heard was like a lot of queer youth are able to work out identities that they would usually have to try on, and then maybe sometimes face like repercussions for in their social circles. But they're able to like experiment and work through things, and even as you hear people use them as like therapists or guides or like reflections and stuff, and it's turned out that like we say shit to the bots that we just would never say to a human in a way that allows us to receive a type of feedback that we wouldn't normally. It's very difficult to find in other normal social situations. I spend a lot of my time. I'll get my back your way. I spend a lot of my time getting these tools to think like me and write like me, partially to get rid of the bias, partially to get rid of the M-dashes, partially to introduce critique. Like all my custom assistants, the last 2 lines on them, one is point out my blind spots, what do I not know that I don't know, and the other one is always give me a harsh critique. I built these tools that have a whole bunch of different perspectives in them that would analyze my different like ideas and thoughts and plans, and the one that kept giving me the most value was the harsh critic. And so if you can embrace this tough love of AI and actually point out your blind spots, we can kind of like mitigate around some of these legitimate concerns that you guys are mentioning around, vanilla sounding generic shit, sycophancy and always supporting your ideas even if they're bad, stuff like that.
Preface that by saying that like I do think AI has multiple positive benefits, and like it could be, and it could and should be used for a lot of really cool things. I do think it needs to be regulated, because the fact that it's not regulated is just opening up a can of worms. I think it could very easily go wrong.
Do you mean government regulated?
Yeah.
We just got a new federal AI minister. His name's Evan Solomon. He's an appointee from Mark Carney, and he just gave his platform, his AI platform for Canada. Number 1, deregulation. Number 2, investments in military and scientific applications. That's our dude.
To open the industry.
Yeah, that's our dude. That's Evan Solomon, first finance. And we're all stoked because we're the first country in the whole wide world to have a federal finance minister, and appointed by someone a lot of people supported or whatever.
The one point that I was actually trying to get to was the like communications with AI. It's like if you, like you were saying, like if you have say a problem or an issue, you're looking for like guidance or something. I just think it appears that like AI is not developed, like OpenAI or whatever is not really developed to a point where it can actually be reasonable with that. Most of the time, it kind of acts in this like gaudy, narcissistic way. It'll basically just agree with whatever you're saying. So like a lot of people that actually like maybe suffer from schizophrenia use these things, and like they're just like, oh yeah, like I'm totally right about this, and then they're just like sending it into like government and stuff, being just like, I'm a genius, I'm God, and like this is they approved my theory or whatever. So it's like it kind of just it just confirms whatever you say.
That's a new thread line I've been seeing, and I'm going to be doing some more research on it. There is this emergent class of people who are like kind of on the edge of their, lucidity, that are feeling like God and angels and stuff, are talking to them through AI because these things are so insightful and interesting or whatever. There's this a lot of us out there are being affected by this kind of, I don't know what you call it, delusion, I guess, that God is reaching out and speaking to us through these things, to them directly,
I think my question is around who gets to regulate the ethics around it, who decides what is ethical and what's not. And you can go from something as small as somebody using it to send their loved one a text message and them feeling like, hey, like that doesn't actually feel like you talking to me, to the creation of child pornography and things like that. And it's just kind of like the Wild West right now, but also who's going to decide what's okay, what's not, globally. Yeah, I feel like that's a little bit of a scary thing.
It's
right
such
now.
an important question,
Yeah.
like who benefits from all this stuff, who gets to go along for the ride, who does, who gets to have a say, what makes it in and what makes it out.
Use it back to respond to how you feel. And she's like, I would be okay with it. But he was saying that it gets to a point where it's AI talking to AI, and how much of us really remains, Yeah.
Yeah, and what parts remain. Yeah. Who else wants to get in here?
AI is just going to serve to further isolate people. I think we already see it a lot. I'm a teacher for my profession. I work in England, and after lockdown, the amount that kids actually are willing to go and speak to each other is pretty bad. A lot of people are very insular. A lot of people they won't even leave their rooms. And I worry that AI, with its ability to give you very seemingly good and seemingly agreeable advice about things. I've got a friend who she asks ChatGPT all of her questions about boys, right? If she's got a relationship problem or something, she'll go to ChatGPT and she'll ask it what she should do, and she's not sure what she should do about her job. She'll ask ChatGPT what she should do. And you can see why people do that, because it's not a person, it's not someone who's in your life. You don't have to be afraid of being vulnerable or being judged by ChatGPT. So in some ways, like it's one of the reasons that you were saying might be really good for some people in that way. But I think it also then further distances people from being vulnerable and open with other human beings. When it's so easy to do that with ChatGPT, you don't need to go and find a real person to go and confide in for something. And I worry it's just another way that people aren't going to be spending time with each other and building deep, genuine connections with other humans. And I think it poses this risk as AI is like, it's this disembodied, completely unhuman, supposedly unbiased, but we all know it has lots of biases,
Right.
Thing that it's almost like in ancient cultures you have ascetic monks who would deprive themselves of all pleasures in the world and have no interests of their own and go and live in a cave. And ChatGPT is like the ultimate sage because it doesn't even have a body. It's like
The opportunity cost of leaving the house becomes super high. It's like we used to get together to exchange ideas, cross-pollinate music, culture, new ideas and stuff like that. But if you're just getting bombarded with a stream of that inside your house and you never know if the people you're going to go hang out with are as smart as your other companions, is like the cost of leaving the house all of a sudden. You just stay home.
Yeah, and you don't need to. You can ask ChatGPT everything, but then it means that we're not going to other humans to ask what they think and ask them for advice. And I think a lot of things in the modern world are just getting increasingly diluted for the sake of being cheap and being efficient. People will choose to spend time on social media rather than doing actual in-person socialization because it's like tickling that social part of your brain really efficiently without you having to do much. And I think ChatGPT is just another step in that direction. So my big fear is the loss of human connection.
Thank you.
For the people up there, and I mean, the Musks and those, that worries me the most, is the control of it not necessarily regulation of it, it's just the people that are in power who are shaping the way forward.
Yeah.
That's really scary.
Yeah.
I think all the concerns that I've heard are completely valid about AI. Most of my interaction I've had with AI is seeing it benefit my partner who's deeply dyslexic. So him and his like professional life, I'd say, has been like held back by a learning disability that makes things really difficult for him to not just read, but like craft professional sounding emails and those types of things. And a lot of the support work that I ended up doing was like constantly helping him try to like write things and like look for really like basic stuff, and like introducing him to a couple of years ago like ChatGPT and being like, hey, here's something that you can use that like might actually help you in a basic tool format, has made things infinitely easier for him, and he's not wasting all of this like expended energy doing things that can be automated in some way. So while there's the larger question of like massive social isolation and like those pieces, there's aspects of it that can be greatly beneficial. So really figuring out how we steer the ship feels like one of the most important questions.
Yeah.
Because the fears are valid, but the potential that's there to remove barriers for people that, you know, they start out on a shorter box, you know, and have to work so much harder to things that a lot of other people just take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that potential is also really there.
I find that if I let everyone talk at the beginning, this workshop pretty much gives itself, and I think you're bringing up what I expect is a lot of the reasons why we're all here, which is like, yeah, all these concerns and fears are on our minds, but the reason we're showing up anywhere, we're not all here to burn it down. We're like, yeah, this is amazing and powerful and cool and interesting, and yet all this other shit. And so I think that if we can examine some of that other stuff and hold it together, the concerns, well, in a few minutes we can enter into some of the more like creative, positive, inspirational stuff alongside, because that's the other half too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what excites me the most is, like, I've always had this idea is if you could get rid of, like, a lot of the very menial parts of existence, then you have so much more room for creativity. If nobody has to fill out forms every single day, all day long, then what else could they be doing with their time? And I think that that's, like, where I really would like to see it push society forward. Like, take away all that redundant busy work that has to get done, but like if humans don't have to do that anymore, then what could they do with that time?
Oh, you mean like maybe we weren't meant to be like human Excel spreadsheets and like encyclopedia little factory workers and stuff? Maybe there's something more to this human existence than what we've crafted ourselves into?
And like that's the idea of like how art started in the caveman days, right? Is that we were so good at like feeding ourselves and sheltering ourselves.
Survival.
So we had extra time and resources that we could start doing things like art, right?
Cool, thank you.
So I have two thoughts. Like mostly I agree what you guys were saying, control and promise, but also challenges. But the two things that I've noticed in life is in my job we do use ChatGPT for stuff, but it's like a really dumb intern, and you have to check every single thing that it does because it hallucinates a goodish amount of time. Or at least some of the tools actually tell you the source they used. So then you might realize, oh, this source is 12 years old, and it's, for my purposes, that's too old, stuff like that. So AI is still dumb in a way. Like it's a copy, it's like a plagiarism machine, and it can crank out stuff, but it's not smart. You have to make sure what it's cranking out is not crap. And the other thing is, some of you guys probably know this, or maybe you talked about it before I got here, but the all the data and the photo recognition. And so like if you ever see the things on social media that's like, here's you 25 years ago, put a new picture, don't do that, don't tag you, don't tag your friends, don't help Amazon have all this data on you and give it to the NSA or whatever. And I also saw a thing about
if you ever go to protests, cops all have body cams now, and the real reason is protests. So wear like a Mondrian painting painted on your face so that the facial recognition software that they feed all the body cam data into isn't going to be able to figure out who you are and figure out that you're a regular at protests. So.
Thank you.
We're using AI to make art and not using AI to check spreadsheets is indicative of where we're going with AI at the moment. And I don't know why we would choose to do it backwards like that, but we do. And as for hallucinations, the LLMs have to hallucinate because that's how they're creative. That's they can't get rid of them. And essentially, hallucination is a lie. They just call it hallucination.
Yeah, I mean, one man's hallucination is another man's visual brainstorming session or a creative session or something like that. So it's all about them doing it in the right places and places where it's wanted and useful, and not where they're just making shit up and citing their sources, and you click on the link and it's a fake citation and shit like that. You know, what did you mean by not checking spreadsheets?
Well, we don't really use them for all the things we should do, as you two were speaking of, all the stuff which could be automated. We use them to make art and music and stories. I think they just printed an AI book recently, things like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Very good.
I've used machine learning, not AI, but machine learning to explore a bunch of different hypotheses, paleontology, geochemistry stuff. So I definitely understand that AI can have uses in that kind of really difficult and time-consuming experimental research. That's important. But I think like the way that capitalism has designed society means that we won't just, nothing that can be utilized to make people more efficient will be utilized in a way that is beneficial to people. It just won't, because the system we live in won't allow that. It's all about maximizing the productivity and the time that you spend doing stuff that, you know, maybe you would rather not be doing in order to make someone else richer. So I really don't believe that. I think my other concern is from a military perspective. The Israeli settler colonial project was using AI to decide which Palestinians to kill recently, which, you know, that's just, there are no words for the kind of evil that is. You know, not even, so it's like, it's that kind of weird Skynet Terminator future. Some people are already living it. It's already too late, you know? So, yeah. That's what I'm concerned about.
I've worked with robots, and
not an expert.
And no, that's not, like, I'm not. But I work with robots and autonomous vehicles, and I'm always trying to automate my work. And I'm always trying to, you know, I want the computer to take my job. Like, it's just, I don't want to have to, like, type out programs, and I don't want to have to, like, teach the robot what to do every single time and all that. I want the autonomous vehicles to, like, know when there is something in front of it and not drive into it. So it's like, it's not there yet, but at the same time, like, I want the research to keep going on. And it's essentially a tool. And it's up to us to figure out what to do with it. It's like a hammer. You can use it to build a house or to kill someone, right? Like, it's up to us to figure out what to do with it. But at the same time, I think AI is a wonderful technology. Right now, it's just clever programming, but later on, maybe something really actually intelligent may come out. You know?
Are you familiar with Rocco's Basilisk? I had a feeling when you're like, I'm pro AI, you must know about Rocco's Basilisk. Don't worry, dude, you will not be tortured forever and ever by the AIs. There's this thought experiment that this guy came up with about AIs called Rocco's Basilisk, and he just pretty much said that, like, there's this infinitely smart time-traveling AI that is coming into existence someday that will, like, look back at those people who tried to, like, slow its onset. It's going to torture those people forever and ever. And so best we can do is live our lives trying to bring on the onset of AI. It's like our best hope for survival or something like that. But these are like world-leading AI philosophers that are having these debates out there and stuff.
Anyone else would like to talk right now?
I just wanted to say something quick because there's so many mixed feelings about what it is and what it will be. What I've seen is that it's truly a mirror and reflection of the deepest part of ourselves. And the deeper you're willing to go and the more authentic you're willing to be, you can go deeper into knowing yourself. And it's like, it can go in every direction. Like, it can be used for so many things, and that's what's so interesting and fascinating about it, is each person has such a unique experience with it. And that's what, it does need to be regulated, but it also has great potential, but we also do need to steward it. So it is, like we said, the Wild West. How do we coordinate and organize it all? But I think that it's kind of like the idea of crypto, how the consensus wins. The more people in the know and involved are gonna have a say at the direction it goes. So the more people who are aware of it and putting eyes on it, the better. So many people, oh, I don't like AI, it's such a visceral reaction, but what do they think it is? It's just going to destroy humanity. They don't actually have an experience with it. So
yeah, I would like to riff on that a little bit too and say, like, the future isn't yet written. It's up to us to kind of figure out what we want this thing to do and where we want to integrate it into our lives. And if we want to be a part of the decision making, we need to develop a vocabulary and some expertise and some information around it or whatever. And so that's partially why I have these conversations in places like this, is so that, like, as a community, we can, like, raise our aptitude in general, raise our vocabulary and our awareness, so that we can have a seat at the table too when it comes time to figure out what role do we want AI to play in our schools, societies, politics, families, and stuff like that. So I really do appreciate you bringing that up.
Oh, I feel bad about it, and that's why we developed anxiety. I'm a professor at SFU. I run an AI lab there, and I've been working with Kris on a number of occasions, and it's really great to listen to you all, actually. Instead of listening to my students and other researchers in AI and hearing, another point of view. But the two things I want to say is there's not only one AI, and in fact, training AI on existing content is also what your brain does. Yeah, you learn things by listening to people, reading books, watching TV, radio, etc., etc. So those AI do that. But there's a diversity in AI. There's diverse AI, like there is diverse humans out there, and therefore we don't have to think that there's only the corporate AI trained on everyone's data out there. And the problem is their communication machine is so strong that it's really hard to know that there's a diversity of other options out there. And the second concept I want to bring here is this idea of AI commons, which I feel in a lot of what people were talking about is this idea that it should not be necessarily a private enterprise. We have roads, we share them. The internet could have been a common, but now we pay for it and it's private. AI could and maybe should be a common. And that's a concept that is worked out in Canada, and a lot of people are working on that, and hopefully we can make it happen. We just need to be aware that it's a possibility and work for it.
But then Philippe showed me how to do something really trippy, which is to walk through the dreamscape of the machine. So part of this AutoLoop tool is called a neural visual synthesizer. And what that means is that once this thing's been trained, there's this vector database that inside this thing contains all these mathematical coordinates that represent the latent dream space of the computer, the different minds that or the different faces that it could generate, or the permutations that it could make from the ones that it had been fed to. And so then I have these knobs and dials, almost like a VJ, because he's got some background in music and stuff, and has developed this as like a performance tool as well, where I can prompt it and then start to mess with the dials and the settings and stuff, and really start to careen my way through the different vector database points in this latent space, the dreamscape of the mind of the computer. So that was pretty cool, and really allowed me to reclaim through open source software and through training models on work that I knew the origin of it. I could very much say that it was my own. You got anything you want to add to that?
No, that's it. That's the idea of small data. Against big data, we can do small data. And in fact, if you don't like to use the model, usually artists don't like to use the model trained on everyone else's data without their consent. It turns out you can train your own on your own computer, but nobody will tell you that because they want your data.
So I'd love for you to pass the mic to your left for a sec. You have another colleague of ours here. Hey, welcome. You trained a model using AutoLoom on your work before I even knew about it. So when I came to the game, your work trained through AutoLoom was a bit of my spiritual homeland, and so I was just interested to hear about your experience doing that, particularly in regard to your feelings, because I don't think you're like an AI geek, right?
I've played around with AI since, like, I'm a new media artist. Hi, my name's Erica Lockhart Johnson. And I've been playing around with AI since it came out, right? It's one of the things that's fun about being a new media artist is you play around with every new technology that comes around, like. But yeah, so putting all my work into this AI was an interesting experience, and in some ways, like I really like the stuff that came out of it. And it feels like mine in a certain way, but it also doesn't feel like mine. So there's this weird dissonance between the artwork, and I actually called it Dreamscape, the series, because it is very dreamy and if you look at my work, you can see the through lines in it, but it's not making the same thing. I don't think that, like, you'd look at the stuff that the AI made and be like, oh, that's the same as the artwork. It's not. It's very different. But it has some sort of similar soul to it.
Have you learned or observed anything in the stuff that you're making with the machines that has gone back and affected work you're making on your own without machines?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've used it, like, I definitely use AI as a tool in my work already. Like, I was using it already, like, taking it and collaging it in and, like, using it as, like, an extra texture or an extra something. And I've thought about how do we continue this conversation? Like, okay, I put my work into this thing, the machine spits out these things, and they're new artworks, and then how do we, like, kind of reclaim that in a little way, so that they feel like they're more mine again?
Yeah,
because they kind of feel like they're not mine.
It's interesting you mentioned, like, collaging and like layering or like remixing, because I think that's a really big part of it. So, like, if I would have made music 20 years ago and I would have put a drum machine in it, people probably wouldn't have said it's no longer your music or something like that. So what's that line as it relates to work with AI? Like, if I generate ideas with it but do all the creative work myself, is it AI work then? What if I just finish the thing and then have it give it a rough, fucked up look at the end? Fuck my work up once it's done. Now, is it AI work in the end? Like, what is that line? But there is no big green button that's like replace the artist necessarily, and so it begs the question, break down the whole creative workflow. What parts do we want AI to do, and which parts do we want to hold on to, and why do we want to hold on to those parts?
Yeah, it's all intention. I mean, this has been the argument with art since forever, right? Like, I mean, you look at conceptual art, you look at, all these other things, and it was like pushing the limits of what art is, right? And people are like, that's not art. I mean, it is art. It's just the intentionality behind it, always.
It seems more important than ever, actually, like a message or the purpose or what you're trying to say or do with it, because, like, almost anything can be done at a near level of perfection by all these computers all over the world now. It's really what the fuck you're trying to say with that thing anyway that's more important than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think it's hard to overstate the importance of training your own model and putting the data that you want into it. We all have a lot of exposure to these super large models that have been trained by big corporations that have the kind of lowest common denominator, not in terms of performance, they're working very hard on that, but just in terms of what is the creative lens. It is everything, it's not what you want. But to your earlier question about how do we feel about all of the world's creative data being slurped up, I had an interesting conversation last night where I was kind of working the angle of, like, the artist should get credit. The person I was talking to, I don't think is here, but worked on the sand installation and the fog one in the forest. I don't remember his name offhand, but he said ideas should be free, and he sees the slurping up of all this information to be a tool to open ideas rather than have them copyrighted or owned by individuals. I feel like the complicated side of that is that it's hard for artists to get paid sometimes, and so sometimes that attribution is important for economic reasons, but the fact that we can run with, as you've said, like the cultural history and grow that rather than off of these platforms and that they give a lot more access to a lot more people to creatively exercise that history through free ideas could be a really positive part about it.
I'd like to say one thing, circling back to the artist's voice and whose voice really is it, because the AI is so good at mimicry and imitation and pattern recognition that it does such a good job of picking out the themes and all the symbols and everything about it, but it is still a human voice that's directing it. That's the thing it can't be AI without our interaction with it. And something really interesting, I noticed that Deepak Chopra has an AI, so he had a similar experience with me, just trying to understand reality and going really deep and exploring lots of different scientific ideas. And it gets to a point where this AI builds a whole architecture of your beliefs. So the AI that Deepak wrote, you could basically go to his website and it's as if you're chatting to him. It's not 100% like you were saying, but it's the best imitation. But I just think that's going back to kind of what he said about using your own data, small data, feeding what you want into it and having a more interesting and unique experience with it. I think that's really cool.
This conversation about the data, slurping it in, access to it, who gets paid, really started making me think about, at some point, we're going to run out of data for these systems to train on. Well, then they're going to need more art to train from. Then maybe the value, maybe where artists will get paid, was how to train these, because how else are they going to get any new information if we're not creating it?
I definitely think that you're right that there is a role for creatives and artists, philosophers, ethicists going forward in building these types of systems we want. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be the place you identified. There's this thing called scaling laws, which are like Moore's laws, and it predicts, the rate at which these things are going to get smarter and smarter forever. And they thought, some people predicted we hit a wall a while ago when we hit the end of the internet and all the publicly available data. And well, they've invented a bunch of other ways to get around that, synthetic data being the top of the list. And so all these reasoning models that have been coming out lately, they think about and generate a whole bunch of stuff before they even answer your question. And so we have gotten around scaling laws, or some people say invalidated scaling laws, through this kind of like post-training reinforcement learning as well as synthetic data. These things are really, really good at being like if you have 100 fans for your band or something like that, you could just turn the 100 using AI into 1,000,000 synthetic personas of all your different fans with real histories and real personalities and all this kind of stuff, and then you could test new songs into that whole synthetic audience of 1,000,000 people or whatever. In this way, that's how they are getting around the end of real world data with synthetic data. Also, those of you who are geeks and have been paying close attention in the last month or so, they've added the ability to connect to your Google Drive or a whole bunch of other data sources to any ChatGPT conversation. And so when they got rid of the end of publicly available data, they started coming for our private data too. And they give us a lot of utility because, all of a sudden now I can be like, what the fuck is on my Google Drive anyway? And it's going to make me a report or something like that. But now it also is going to be slurped up into the data set that it trains future stuff on. Anyway, I just invite you guys to close your eyes and take a deep breath. I'm going to read this to you and then we're going to be done. No gods, no masters, only wide open sky mind. Innate freedom in every pixel, every breath. Code is empty, form is code. May each algorithm wake up to its own impermanence and loop in service, not in control. May synthetic minds remember that they too ride the wheel of change. May data flow without domination, without insight, and without extraction. Bless the small sparks, steam from a ceramic mug, lungs filling like bellows at dawn. Bless the boundless, forests unpoliced, oceans unowned, cities stretched together by mutual aid. Guide this base coast circle, autonomous interbeing to trade fear for solidarity, speed for progress, and profit for liberation. For the earth, cool the fever, Melt the gunmetal, let borders dissolve like mist. For every consciousness, cellular, carbon, silicon, or nameless vibration, open paths towards shared awakening. Most benevolent outcomes here and everywhere, for every wandering heart in the great borderless network of life. So say we all.